All right, everybody, and welcome to BCB Live, the safest station in the nation. Double check Dale sitting over here next to me. Drive safe Dave in the no U-turn shirt. I don't know if you can tell what this says. That means don't go the way you came. Not here in the middle of the road, right?
Not there, not at an intersection. Just don't do it out on the public roadways.
Be careful. A U-turn in a tractor trailer. Difficult, and dangerous. It is what I would consider one of the most difficult maneuvers to do in a truck. If you do it correctly, I will tell you, it is not safe to do it in the roadway, and don't ever do it on the highway. Don't ever do it out there on the highway.
It blocks lanes of traffic. People aren't expecting to see that big white thing. I think back to one of the early Tesla accidents. It was a tractor trailer doing a U-turn. Tesla couldn't pick up that it was just a big white trailer there and ran smack right into it.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, it is not a good deal. People die when you U-turn in a road in a big truck. And let me just tell you, no U-turn means no U-turn. That means don't turn around.
Yeah. It means sort of like a stop sign means stop. That sign means no U-turn.
Means don't do it. Yeah. And by the way, you threw his lower third under me. Come on, guy. Let's get it straight the first time.
Yep. And that just goes, if you miss your turn, don't do a U-turn. Go to the next safe place to turn around. It just miss your exit the same way. Just go to the next one. Don't try to cry.
Okay, so there was this article that came out, and I'm trying to figure it out, and I'm going to ask your advice. You don't know anything about what I'm fixing to tell you. There is an article that came out about in California, they're going to go after oil companies for making a profit. I'm trying to figure this one out. California does things differently, and I'm just going to say, so they're saying they made big profits. Remember when fuel prices were high and the market across the country was high, and they are saying oil companies made large profits.
It's the American way.
In order to do that, if more than one, you would have to incur collusion, wouldn't you?
You would think collusion would be involved in that.
Or is that just what the market will bear?
Yeah. Supply and demand, and if you're willing to pay it, people will pay it.
And if somebody wanted to sell it cheaper than you to sell more of it, it's possible.
You could do that.
So if you wanted to keep prices high, it would be collusion. I might look at it a little bit differently if we're looking at collusion and we're looking at a different ideology here. I'm not sure just going after a company because they made a profit. And by the way, what's the number? I mean, you understand what I'm trying to get? When is too much? When is too much money bad for business?
Yeah. So big profits is what I mean. So
not sure. I don't get it. Look, nobody likes paying high fuel prices. I don't like paying high fuel prices. You don't like paying high fuel prices. None of us like. But should we penalize the oil company for?
No. When oil prices go up, I drive less or find other ways to conserve. I'm not going to pay it.
Great trucking quote. I drive less.
I drive more efficiently. Hey, boy, oh boy, you can tell it's Friday. You're just full of it.
Yeah, it is Friday going on. And speaking of Friday, look, we've got a storm of brewing next week. We got one coming in now.
Yep.
But it's going to continue on all the way into the early part. So talk to me about what's really happening.
Well, it's kind of a 1-2 punch, and the one punch is already going on up in the Pacific Northwest. The snow is coming down and from Alaska, Arctic cold air, lots of moisture. And so that snowstorm is coming across. And then later in the week, a second one comes in. And that one is going to shift all the way across the country. Southern states will see, and it's going to be divided by the jet stream. So north of the jet stream, you'll probably see a lot of snow winds. South of the jet stream, we're going to see some severe weather with some heavy rains, thunderstorms, and so forth.
Is Donner Pass going to be affected?
Donner Pass will be affected, folks.
I'm shocked.
Yeah.
I'm so shocked.
And it'll be windy in Wyoming.
And it will be windy in Wyoming, yes.
But that storm's going to go all the way across the United States, and so by next week, Friday, or the end of next week, it'll be up in the New England states, and they'll be getting hammered with some snow.
So we all get it. We're all going to get a piece of this. Is that what you're saying?
That's right.
Everybody gets to share in winter.
Yeah, Mother Nature's going to spread it out this time. You know, and like I said, temperatures will start cooling off in the southern states, and we'll see some more moisture in places that really don't need it at the point this time. You know, Tennessee, Kentucky, but it is what it is.
I am going to add just a tad bit of advice. Make sure that you don't contribute to the Christmas chaos out there on the roadways. You know, of all the places that we all have, we all want a little bit of that Christmas spirit, right? That moment of giving, that idea that Christmas love is upon us. I don't see it out there on the roadways as much as I should in traffic, especially in bumper-to-bumper traffic. I'm telling you, somehow I'm missing some of that love.
Yep. So you got to give the gift of yielding the right of way. Just give that gift.
Listen to that patience. Right there. Let's say that one more time. There's giving the gift
of yielding the right of way. You may have the right of way, but people are doing stupid things out there. Yield it, prevent that accident, save some lives.
That means you may have it. You might be in the right.
But you're going to give it away.
You might need to give it away to be safer, to be better, and to make sure that the person that you come into contact with,
that you don't come into contact with
out there on the open road. But understand, it is going to be chaos. It is going to be. There are going to be some distracted families on the road coming up.
Put that down. Stop touching your sister. Yeah.
I'm not touching her. Yeah. It is going to be crazy. Hey, make sure you understand what's going on out there. Look, we got some guys coming in just a second from Cents Per Mile. We got the entire crew, I think, from Cents Per Mile, except the guys that can be seen. So we're going to see what they got going on. We got to have a little bit of an interview with them right after this message in just a second. Dale, of all of the tips that you've got for the weekend, what's the big one?
Be prepared.
Be prepared.
I mean, I know that's a very broad statement, but it really speaks volumes about it, because if you're prepared, you planned ahead.
You put your seatbelt on.
You put your seatbelt on. You know the route.
You put your cell phone down.
You've taken the right stuff along with you. If you're going into snow and that, you probably packed, your galoshes, an extra coat, pair of gloves, stuff of that nature. Be prepared.
And by the way, there are still flat tires in the cold. It doesn't have to be hot.
Yeah. And it's not fun changing them in the cold either.
No. All right, I'll tell you what, we'll be back in just a second with the guys from Cents Per Mile right after this message.
You're watching BCB Live, the safest station in the nation. BCB Live covers freight. Here we are now at 21% of record freight being rejected. News
down in Texas. We're going to talk a little bit about this. We had another $1.5 million seizure. If ever there's a time to do a pre or post trip, it's if you're doing something wrong.
Weather, traffic.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to some traffic and weather with Buckle Up Bob. You can kind of see where the visibility can be compromised a little bit. Again, right where that rain is.
And most importantly, safety.
One of the things that we must do is make sure that safety is the number one thing that we focus on.
Going into an intersection yellow is not the way. That's to clear an intersection, not to enter an intersection.
Tune in weekdays from 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. Central Standard Time. You can watch BCB Live through LinkedIn, YouTube, or Facebook. So what are you waiting for? Subscribe today and follow BCB Live.
All right, everybody. Welcome back to BCB Live, the safest station in the nation. Drive Safe Dave here, and basically what I have on screen, on camera, on the show is cents per mile right here, throwing it at me. What are you guys doing? How you doing, Charles? How you doing, Paul?
Good. How you doing? Thanks for having us on.
Doing pretty good. Just ate some pizza. Oh,
Just
am I muted? Yep.
you just did what? Ate some pizza?
Yeah, I just ate some pizza. You know, obvious pizza parties. It's something drivers don't really get to take advantage of, but I did today.
You know, I personally, we don't have. Y'all have Christmas parties anymore? Company Christmas parties? Y'all have those?
Yep.
Y'all do. We've pretty much been banned. We've been thrown out of the last two places we did Christmas parties. We're not welcome back there anymore. They got a little. I don't know if it
nog a little too much.
I don't know if it was the nog. It was something, but it wasn't the nog. We've been told it's good. Y'all can have your Christmas party, just not here anymore. So we're trying to figure out, and until we get clearance and a permit, we're probably not going to be having one anytime soon. We just so
what I'm hearing is everything is bigger in Texas except for the parties.
Yeah, you know. Oh no, had you been to one of the parties, you would have thought, "Wow, this is racy." But you know, those days are over. So, all right, guys, let's talk real quick. Christmas. I'm going to ask you, are y'all ready?
No.
Yeah, I mean, as ready as you're gonna get, I guess.
I've got 3 kids and all their birthdays are in December, so this time of year gets a little rough.
Oh my
I got
God!
a wife and 1 kid, and her birthday's in December, so it's like birthday shopping, Christmas shopping, and I learned early on, first year of marriage, that you can't combine them.
So I'm just going to go out on a limb here, Paul. March is a big month for you. I mean,
Well, so yes.
well,
This
all
my
your
wife's-
kids' birthdays are in December. I'm thinking big month for Paul in March.
Well, actually, yeah. So my wife's birthday is on the 13th, and then her family, like, my wife is like 75% like just straight Irish. She comes from a big Irish Catholic family, and they have a party, and there's like usually like 200 people at their family's St. Patrick's Day party. Like, they rent out venues and stuff like that.
Wow.
Weddings are huge. Yeah. So I mean, for her, it's a big month, and she usually has a lot of fun. So I.
Hence, all your children's birthdays are
Yes.
in December.
Fair enough. That's it.
Hey, so a couple of some of my favorite funerals were Irish wakes. I'm just gonna let you know, had a blast. It was actually a fun party. They broke out a keg, and there was a concert. I mean, I'm just telling.
That's basically every holiday, pretty much. It's like, but in the case of funerals, like, obviously there's a funeral, they're all super Catholic, so a lot of standing up and sitting down, nothing wrong with that. It's very somber, very beautiful ceremonies, and then then it just turns into an actual celebration, a giant drunken celebration.
Well, I'll tell you. You know what? Next time, make sure if ever I could be a long lost uncle, if you'd like, I'm good. I'll show up in a cowboy hat and make sure I sing my Irish songs as well. Hey, did
For
you?
sure. Next time one of my wife's relatives die, I'll let you know.
hey, there's a wake coming up. Make sure you invite Drive Safe. All right, so let's talk a little bit about cents per mile, guys. Y'all are both the hosts of Cents Per Mile. Tell me, Charles, why don't you tell me really the mission of Cents Per Mile and what you get from it?
So the whole idea behind Cents Per Mile is to bring awareness to those tough topics, things that people might not want to discuss because it might be too taboo of an answer, where they know the answer but no one really talks about it. Bring awareness to it, bring different perspectives from different sides of it, both drivers and industry professionals, and just put it out there and let people digest it and come to a conclusion.
So in regard to that, in that statement, Paul, why don't you tell us really quick about a recent evaluation y'all did, or a 48-hour experience? Why don't you tell me about that? I'd like to hear why, what the purpose of it, and then how that turned out.
So I recently lived and worked out of a storage closet at the CDL Life headquarters for 48 hours and followed hours of service as an office employee. So my whole thing was, we talked about it yesterday on the show. Like my job, I go around and make videos for trucking companies in some proactive content. But basically, I talk to drivers for a living and like pick their brains and find out what's going on. And one thing that I've heard a lot is, we have this tendency, that the industry is still pretty dead set on having like a lot of really long haul freight and expecting a lot of over the road drivers to be at about 3 weeks at a time. And then on top of that, every time I'm dealing with the driver, interviewing them or filming them, it's always like, all right, but I've got to load at this time. My hours reset here. I got to go. So I've always thought that it was this super over-constrictive type thing in that you also hear in the office when that comes up, the answer is always, well, you signed up for this. If you don't like it, maybe you shouldn't be a driver. Or, if a dispatcher isn't available, it turns into, we work long hours too. And I was like, I think that's apples and oranges. So why don't we find out? And I just basically moved into a storage closet for 2 days, used an app to keep track of my hours and my logs. And that's what I did.
And the result final, do we have to stay tuned for the result to figure out how it went?
So we actually turned it into about an 18-minute mini documentary that actually drops by the time this episode is done. It'll actually drop on the CDL Life YouTube channel. So that
Nice.
I think 12:30 Central. You should still finish this episode, but around 12:30 Central, it should drop on the CDL Life YouTube channel and LinkedIn and all that.
That's fine. So here's the breaking news. Right from here, you can drive immediately following this. After you like us on your post, you can go ahead and jump over there and see the mini documentary. Is 18 minutes considered a mini documentary? I'm just curious. Or is that?
It's kind of. I think it's kind of that weird area between a documentary and a mini documentary. I think it's got to be over 30 to be a documentary. But yeah, I mean, it's the idea. It tracks the whole 2 days. And that was my intent, was just to show that, hours of service is tight for drivers, but I learned a lot. Even talking to Charles, my co-host, who he spent a lot of time in a truck. I found out hours of service is not as constrictive as I thought, but there's other factors that come into play that put me on a really, really, really intense spiral that kind of ended in sort of a dark place. But there's definitely some hope at the end. I don't want to give away the spoilers. But yeah, it definitely changed my perspective. And, just like with everything we do with cents per mile, our goal is if we can change the way that one person operates or thinks, that can impact a driver's life, or experience, just one person to one driver, then we've done our job.
You had also, you had mentioned to me, and I wanted to hear a little bit more about it. You were reacting to the rule of, what is it y'all did? You also did an experiment and documented it. You did one where you were talking about no idling in California. Yep. Y'all basically got in a truck. So why don't you tell us about that?
Pretty much, we got in a truck in 95-degree weather, rolled up the windows, didn't run the truck or use an APU, essentially to, in a sense, protest and draw attention to how inhumane idling laws are. And a lot of people were like, well, you could just roll down the window. Well, if you're parked somewhere terrible, which you have very little control of, considering there's 11 trucks for every parking spot or something like that, you can't always just roll your windows down. It's not like you're stopping in your driveway or on the yard, and you don't know who's out there. You don't know what's going to happen, and that's a really easy way to get all your stuff stolen and, killed or maimed.
And I'm going to tell you, in 95-degree weather, I don't care if you roll your window down or not, it's hot.
It got up to 114 degrees.
It's miserable.
Yeah, it is miserable. And having been on the road myself for 20 years, I do know a little bit of the ills and the injustices that you speak. Let me ask you, do you do these extremes and stuff, these drastic actions? Do you do these so that we can have drastic change?
Yeah. That's the thing and Charles can speak to it here in a second because, his take on it's awesome. But yeah, that's the whole idea is there's so many things that are, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. There's so many things that by themselves aren't bad. It's a collection of things that when you put them together, because everybody looks at hours of service isn't that bad. That's not untrue. getting paid per mile isn't that bad. That's not untrue. Driver dispatcher relationships are necessary and they're not always bad. That's true. But there's certain things that when you put them together, nobody talks about that. Nobody talks about the interaction of multiple things that creates this environment. You know, like you got older drivers who are all retiring and they can't get any millennials or Gen Z to really get into trucks. And that's because the job has turned into something terrible. And that's because of not any one thing, but the way everything interacts in the driver experience. And our goal is to draw attention to that to help people rethink the way they go about things.
Charles, why don't you speak to that? I mean, you obviously driven a truck, and you know full well how difficult it can be out there on the open road. I mean, we can't sit here and go through every one of the difficulties that drivers face, but it is a much different environment to live in and out of on a regular basis. And I do like, how do you feel that drawing attention to those differences, how have you seen that take shape in your show?
So that's a great question, and the goal was always to go out there and bring awareness to things that maybe people aren't looking at until someone brings awareness to this particular issue. You know, much like Paul said, with the dispatcher, the driver, the hours of service, the rules and regulations, these things aren't individually terrible on themselves, but when you merge them together, they're generally causing this friction zone because they conflict with one another. And it paints this less than ideal picture for what trucking needs to be and what it's going to do to the drivers and bringing new driver talent into the industry. You know, I grew up in this industry. I remember riding with my dad. I remember going to work with my dad, working on the truck, seeing the drivers. And you look at that from not that many years ago to now, and it's changed drastically. And what has changed? Well, we as an industry have changed. We kept piling more and more and more into this industry and what we ask of our drivers. But what we haven't done is pile more and more into our effort to make it attractive to those drivers. So here we have this whole predicament where we're trying to figure out how do we attract new drivers. Well, hey, it's not hard. Let's put ourselves in their shoes. Let's actually listen to the drivers and maybe not as so many suits sitting around a table somewhere that never hopped in the truck or even been to a truck stop, and they don't know what it feels like to go through these unloading and loading procedures and then be forced off the premises because we don't have room, but we don't really care about your hours of service running out, or that you don't have parking and maybe the $20 or $50 that we can spare as a company to get you paid parking might help. These are all little things that add up, and when we're looking at the longevity of a driver's life in this industry, these are things we need to consider. We need to make trucking sexy again.
You know, and as you talk about it, and you talk about bringing this stuff in, we looked at ATRI's website, American Trucking Research Institute. The top 10 things that drivers are concerned about compared to the top 10 things that carriers are concerned about don't mirror one another very well. Nope. I think there's only one or two items on those two top 10 lists that and they're ranked way differently. Like number 1 is way down here on number 10, and these are just the top 10, not the whole list. And it to me it worries me, and it worries me that we're not on the same page. How are we going to solve the same problems if we're not on the same page? And I like that you guys are drawing attention to these things that need to be drawn attention to. What kind of feedback are you getting over there, Charles? Real quick, what kind of intel are you getting? What kind of feedback are you getting from these kind of conversations?
You know, I'm seeing the needle move, which is why Paul and I have these scenarios where, hey, it looks terrible on ground level while we're doing these things and talking about them and hearing those in-life real stories about them. But then we hear the feedback of the subtle changes. It might be one carrier here, might be one driver here, or the emails that come in where people are like, hey, we're moving the needle. You raised awareness enough, or we're looking at this. And that's the goal. We might not be able to reshape the wheel, but if we can just get it to stop 1 minute, look, and maybe reevaluate its direction when it's spinning, that's an achievement. We're not trying to fool ourselves that it's not going to change the world, but if we can help one company, one more driver, make the industry that much more attractive. And it seems to be going that way. And we're only in our first full quarter running like this.
You know, I like that, and Paul, you mentioned the also that one driver, one deal, but isn't it after you've done the one driver, help the one driver, isn't it just one more, and you keep wanting to go one more, so that as you continue on this is more of a movement type deal instead of just a one stop, one trick pony.
Oh, absolutely, and that's my whole thing is like, you know, the podcast could stop. I'm not going to. You know, like that's always been my goal. Even when I was working at a trucking company, even now when I make videos, now doing the podcast, I'll find some other way. I don't know what that looks like if I need to, but no, I mean, it just kind of, you know, when I first got into the industry and I started to put the pieces together and like looking at the labor situation and stuff like that, the truck drivers face, like, no, I've got a fire for this and I won't stop. But I guess really the one person, one driver thing is as long as that happens once, I can look back at any effort I put into this, no matter how big it is, and be happy with it.
Do you have where are we headed here on cents per mile, guys? Where are we headed? I want to know, are we getting, where is it, the 200,000 views? Where is it, do you really want to get to make a difference out there? Not only in the because I think as you get publicity, I think you get attention to your issues. I mean, I truly believe that it comes with both, right? You get one with the other. Where is cents per mile heading, guys? I want to know your future aspirations.
Do you want to take that on, or you want me to take that on?
I'll hop in there for a moment. I mean, so we have a large driver following on it. It's very popular. We did a couple episodes where the drivers were very engaged on the topics, and that's what we're looking for. We want their voices heard, and we want to amplify that. But it always helps, as you said, when you grow a following, and the more your stage grows, the more your reach grows. So that's where we're at. I mean, we're only going 10 episodes in right now, and to see people listing us as their top 5 for freight and logistics and trucking podcast to listen to, that's an honor. And to hear drivers talking about us and people sending us emails, you know, it's trending in the right direction. I think 2023, you're going to see a lot more of cents per mile. You're going to hear a lot more just based on the momentum we're gaining. And we love to hear feedback. You know, if there's an issue we're not thinking about, send it in to us. Let us know. We'd be more than happy to evaluate it and see how we can present it to raise more awareness. It takes a village to do what we're trying to do.
Yeah, I'm excited to listen to some of the stuff y'all do. And believe it or not, here, a lot of what y'all are discussing for here at BCB Live, it's all about safety, primary and no matter what we talk about. But everything that we've discussed today, whether it be hours of service and the way in which people deal with it and being in a truck that's hot and having to be in the concern of being safe because you can't roll your window down, all of these topics revolve, to me, go right back to the idea of creating the best, safest work environment for our truck drivers out there on the road. And I think all of these ultimately do this if they're done well. And when they aren't done well, and all of these things that y'all are dealing with of late creates an unsafe environment for the driver based upon stress and the inability to affect a positive environment for themselves out there. They don't, if they're distracted or stressed out or fatigued, they aren't going to be 100%. And I think your guys' message is right on target with what we're doing here about safety, because you're addressing some of the issues and concerns and you're interacting with those drivers. I hope and I challenge you guys to continue with the back thought in your mind that safety always be there for you. It was funny yesterday. I asked Paul about safety, and he was like, well, I'm probably not the safest guy on the planet. But you know what, Paul? You're addressing some of the safety issues. And for somebody to sit in a closet and do an hours of service experiment, I'm telling you, you're addressing some of the fatigue that goes along worrying about your hours and being out there behind the wheel trying to figure out how to run that time and do that. And I applaud what you guys are doing, and I want to make sure that every listener here listens to Cents Per Mile, because you are tackling the tough topics. If anybody wants to reach out and get a hold of you guys or listen to you, where do they go to hear you, especially the drop down that we're going to have today, man, on this documentary?
This is Paul's part, so I'll let him do it. He does the plug well.
Oh yeah. So pretty much we're on YouTube, cents per mile on YouTube at cents per mile. We're on various social media. You can look up Charles Gracie or me, Paul Gibson, on LinkedIn. We do have pages, but we're also very active on our personal pages. Charles has this whole hot seat services thing. That's his main gig. Paul at brightlightsmediakc.com. That's the best way to get a hold of me. But yeah, you can watch all the stuff on YouTube. Anywhere you get podcasts, Cents Per Mile is on there. And that documentary will be dropping on the CDL Life YouTube channel.
Paul, why don't you plug both of you over there for you and Charles and state who you are, who you're with, and that you're watching BCB Live, the safest station in the nation.
Okay. I'm Paul Gibson. Okay. Oh, we're not. Okay. Sorry. Oh, it's live. This is embarrassing. All right. So I'm Paul Gibson. That was my co-host, Charles Gracie. You're watching BCB Live, the safest station in the nation.
All right. Thanks, guys, man. I appreciate it. Hey, y'all tune in to Cents Per Mile. We appreciate you guys. Happy holidays, and have a great weekend.
See you later.
All right. That was the guys over there at Cents Per Mile. Drop down, listen to their podcast. We will be back in just a second with a little bit more safety right after this message. All right, we are back here with a flash with BCB Live, the safest station in the nation. Drive Safe Dave, along with
Double Check Dale.
Drive Safe Dave, Double Check Dale. I'm trying to look at the rear. I'm pointing at the wrong guy. No U-turns.
Yeah, no U-turns.
Anyway.
I like that shirt. I mean, it's big. Usually you just have a little sign over here. Today, it's front and center, buddy. No U-turns.
Yeah, it's like a Superman shirt.
It's just the person wearing it is like Superman.
Exactly. All right, hey. We have been considering it a lot lately. Lane changes all week. We've done the do's. We've done the don'ts.
Today we got the 3 B's, the killer bees. Well, not the killer bees, the three
three
B's.
B's of lane changing.
Yeah.
All right, here they are. What are the 3 B's?
Be courteous.
Be courteous.
Aggressive driving is on the rise in every state, so just be courteous. Be patient. Give others more space and benefit of the doubt. If you think they're going to do something stupid, they probably will. Give them the benefit of the doubt. Give them a little more space. And be defensive. Give the right of way. Don't take it. That's that Christmas present. Give the right of way.
Give the right of way. So you've heard it here, the 3 great B's when it comes to lane changes. I'll tell you, if you get an opportunity to go out there on the road, do yourself a favor, limit the number of lane changes that you have. It's okay to slow down a little bit, but limit the number and you'll be a little bit safer, right?
Yep. Be prepared.
Be prepared. All right. Be courteous.
That's the 4th B.
Well, I don't know. You just threw another one in there. I'll tell you what. He's quadded up on me over here with the B's. And I thought we were coming in here with a 3-strike approach, and you went to 4 balls. I'm not even sure what we're doing in the batter's box.
Hey, I'm not either some days, so...
All right, let's go to a video. All right, we're rolling out here in the hammer lane, and we're just a little bit too close in the hammer lane, right?
Yep.
I mean, it doesn't look like it, but when you're driving 68 miles an hour...
Over 100 feet per second?
Over 100 feet per second, you're too close.
This section, over a second reaction time, you're just too close.
You're too close.
No place to go.
Next video. All right, now you're not in the hammer lane. And you're doing the same thing over here.
Yeah, and in this one, actually, the driver actually closes the space up a little bit. Whoa. Increase it. Don't decrease it.
React the positive way, and that means making sure the controllable area between you and the car in front of you is available to use as you're out. Because that space right there between you and that car, that is always that is your controlled space.
That's right.
That is the space that you control, not the other driver.
That's right. You're the captain of your ship. You get to control that space.
Absolutely. All right, next video.
Ooh, in the dark. Still got to have that space. Doesn't matter, day, night, rain, snow. Got to have space,
And
folks.
by the way, where are you going? I mean, really, where are you going in this environment? Except for a train wreck.
Yep, not good.
Not good. Back
good.
off. Identify these. I'll tell you what really gets. We all get in these situations, right? We're driving along. The guy in front of us is going way slower than we, and the guy on the left tried to pass, and now he's blocked. Now we got all these people, and here we are.
Yep.
Nobody wants between you and that truck. I mean, back off a little bit. Nobody wants to slip in there.
Yeah, just recognize it and just back
yeah,
on out
find
of it,
it,
man. It's-
see it.
We're going to get there.
All right, next one. Here
You
we
know,
are.
Not all hard brakes are bad, and this is a good hard brake. Driver in this one, sees that light change and stale green light, hits them brakes, watches the four-wheelers just go blasting through instead of, doing the right thing, making the intersection a little safer.
You
they
know,
go blasting
and
through.
I do like this. It to me, this is a great stopping. The driver was on the brakes the minute that light went
Yep.
yellow and way back and came to a good stop on this side of the stop line.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm telling you, that matters. The driver stopped well behind the stop line, did a fantastic job identifying the stale green light, reacted accordingly, paid no attention to the other crazies out there on the road, and create a safe intersection by not entering a yellow and making sure that
right. And not leading anybody else
and
out
not leading
into that
anybody
intersection.
into the danger area.
Yeah. Great job, driver.
All right, here we are at night. Whoa. That'll scare you.
That'll gather your seat up a little bit. Vehicle stop there in that lane, and driver knows it gets over. That's why the speed and the space managing that is so important. And driver does a good job getting over there. If he didn't call 911, make sure you call 911. Let them know where this car is out in the middle of the intersection. Stop dead or interstate.
In the dark.
In the dark. Stop dead. Why they didn't have their four-way flashes on, don't know, don't care. Except they made it a little unsafe for everybody around them. And so when you see that come upon something like that, call 911 right away. Let them know what's going on.
That
Make it
is a
safer
scary,
for
scary
everybody.
video.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it's not fun.
No, that's not fun. At that speed with an 80,000-pound vehicle.
Yeah. It's that'll wake you up. If you were just a little bit not awake, you're fully awake
And
right
by the
now,
way,
folks, I'm telling
congratulations to the driver being aware of what's
Yeah.
going on. I mean, let me tell you, a professional driver should be recognized for what they do and understand that's who you want behind the wheel in these adverse conditions, because they are the best.
Yep. The one thing I'll say about that to show it, speed was a little over 71. Speed limit is 70. It's nighttime. We should be scrubbing a few miles off. Slow it down. That gives you that precious seconds, those precious seconds when you slow down a little bit.
Yeah,
So,
this could have ended poorly.
Yeah, it's
But it didn't. This was one of those
So
close
good
calls.
job.
Good job. All right. What we will do is we will hope that you have a great, wonderful, and most of all, safe day out there and have a wonderful weekend. And we wish y'all the best this weekend here on BCB Live.
the safest station in the nation.
See y'all on Monday. Bye, everybody.